Well, happy Thursday, guys. It is good news. Tenerife and the Canary Islands have remained on the UK amber travel list, which is absolutely fantastic. I did think it would, and it has, which is absolutely fantastic. I know a lot of you are hanging on, waiting to see what happens before you book. I expect the island now, September, October, is going to be a bit of a boom, to be honest. It is very busy already, and it's looking like a lot of you are going to be heading over in September. So fantastic news for us. We do stay on the amber list, and I will run through in a little minute exactly what that means if you did want to travel here from the UK. But for now, I'm going to start off where we always do with the little Tenerife updates with the latest COVID figures, how the COVID rates are doing over here at the moment. Remember, if you are new to the channel, please do hit the subscribe button. We've got plenty of Tenerife videos on the channel, from excursions, little news updates, live videos, all kinds on the channel. So do hit the thumbs up and hit the subscribe. So it does say here that the COVID rates, they are still decreasing and there is still a downward trend. However, that downward trend is slowing down a little bit. They have had a few cases over in Lanzarote, but overall, I think this is what did help us stay on that amber list, is it is still decreasing. Decreasing is decreasing. As long as we're not going up, I think that's what really did help us. We are seeing a little bit of an increase, but that is, it is to be expected. With the more people that visit the island, the more people there are going to be more detections of it. I am going to show on the screen here exactly what the rates are at the moment. These are as of yesterday. The latest figures for today haven't quite come out yet. New cases yesterday, 249. Tenerife had 131. Gran Canaria 67. Fuerteventura 25. Lanzarote 14. La Palma 6. And even La Gomera and El Hierro both have 3 cases. They normally don't have any, so it is making its way over there as well. Just a few cases. It is still a big difference to a few weeks ago when we were having 500 odd new cases a day. It is only 249. So on the scheme of things, we are still coming down, which is all good. With that as well, they continue the good work with the vaccine. The vaccinations are continuing to climb up. We're nearly at the 3 million mark now for vaccinated people across the Canaries, which is fantastic. A lot of those are double vaccinations as well, so they're fully vaccinated there. So that is still good news with that. So that covers where we are with sort of figures and things. There are still cases happening, but we are still on a downward trend and on an upward trend with the vaccine as well. So fantastic with that. Now, as I mentioned, it is getting very busy over here, and it does tie in with this next article. Canary Islands have the second highest economic growth due to the recovery of tourism. So the Canaries are very popular at the moment with tourists. We're seeing a large number of European tourists that wouldn't normally really be out at this time. We're seeing people coming over that normally wouldn't really come at this time of year, but they've been stuck in for that long. They're coming out. Normally they come in the winter and they're just like, let's go in the summer as well, or let's go now while we can. So we have got a large number of tourists over here at the moment. So with it being very busy, I do have a couple of things just to mention. Your restaurants, they are filling up very quickly, especially on the night. Turning up just to a restaurant on a whim is sometimes very difficult to get a table. I would recommend always making a reservation. If you know where you want to go, try and book at least a day before. Again, my parents are over at the moment and we struggled to get a table in the Locanda Italian the last few nights. We've headed over to Empire and got a last minute table in there. But restaurants, bars, they are filling up. I know the attic and the vault, sometimes they hit full capacity as well in the bars. And also with the excursions, they fill up very fast as well. I would recommend booking in advance for the likes of your jet skis, your boat trips, a boat trip heading out there, your kayaks, which are also just heading out. All of these things are filling up very quickly. So if you know what day you want to do it, try and book in advance. I know a lot of you, that's tricky. You don't want to plan so far in advance, but slightly different circumstances this year. You might have to change how you do things when you come over and do a little bit more pre-planning. So it does say here as well, the number of overnight stays in hotels increases by 176% in the Canaries. That's a massive increase. So overnight stays, your hotels are filling up as well, which is great to see. It's all fantastic news for the islands. There's not really any negative news, to be honest, apart from the slight COVID rates. For tourism, it's absolutely brilliant. So a couple of other things I've got to run through that I've noticed this week. Your test when you're returning home to the UK, your antigen test or your PCR, you can do either. They recommend PCR, but it is only antigen that's mandatory. The test centres, again, are filling up. I recommend booking 2 or 3 days in advance. My mum and dad are going to be booking in advance as well with the one in Los Cristianos, Clínica Vida. They are excellent. But all of these test centres now are getting very busy with people going back. So do book your test for going home in advance. They're very strict at Tenerife Airport. I do know of a few people who've been turned away from their flight for not having a correct antigen test or not having the correct paperwork for flying back to the UK. They've been turned away at the airport, had to stay another night and get a flight the next day. So do make sure you do everything properly. Book your test in advance for when you go home. Just pop into one of the centres, take your passport with you. They won't let you reserve without your passport. So take your passport with you, pop in a few days before and say, I fly home this date, can you book me in for a test? And they'll give you the availability and you can pick a slot, book yourself in, and then you've got a bit of peace of mind then. A lot of these test centres now, they're picking up more staff and they're doing it a little bit more organised now with time slots and things. So as it does get busier, they will get more efficient, but make sure you book in advance. I'm going to quickly run through as well exactly what you would need to do if you do now decide to travel to the Canaries on the amber list. What's it mean for you? What do you need to do to travel here? So first of all, obviously find your holiday, find your flights, find your accommodation, do a bit of shopping around. You can use Skyscanner to find your flights. Some flights might be cheaper than others. Once you've got your flights, you're going to book your trip. Now, if you're fully vaccinated, you've had both jabs, and you've had them both 14 days at least before you travel to Tenerife or the Canaries, you can enter Tenerife without a test. All you will need to do is download the Spanish QR code. I'm going to leave the link in the description. It's a health form that you fill in online. You just bring it up on the internet, on the computer, fill it all in, where you're staying, what flight you're on, if you're vaccinated, you're going to tick yes, etc. Fill in that form and it will email you a QR code. Now don't worry, a lot of people have said, well, I'm not tech savvy, I've not got a phone. You can print it off, don't worry, I do recommend printing it off anyway. You never know what might happen to your phone. So print off your form, save it on your phone as well. You will fly to Tenerife or the Canaries, and at the airport you'll scan your QR code, show your vaccination certificate, or it'll be linked on the QR code that you're vaccinated, and then you'll be free to enter. They will stamp your passport if you're from the UK with the 90-day rule, so you will get a stamp in your passport, and then you're in. You're free to enjoy your trip. Now, if you're not fully vaccinated or you've only had one jab, you will need a PCR test to enter Tenerife. You can find them online. Some of them are about £45. It ranges up to about £70. So you will need a pre-departure test 48 hours before. Again, you will need the Spanish QR code as well. So you'll fill in the form, get your code on your phone and print it off as well if you can. And then bring your negative test result. Make sure it's got your passport number on it, your name, everything like that. And then when you get to Tenerife, they will quickly check that you are negative. And then again, stamp your passport and you're through. Children under the age of 12 do not need a test to enter Tenerife or vaccine certificates or anything. So if you've got children under 12, you can enter with your children, no tests or anything required. You will just need to add your children onto the Spanish QR form. When you're here, you can enjoy your holiday, have fun safely. You will have to wear a mask indoors. You will have to distance as best as you can. Look after yourself. Do the hand sanitizer. As you can hear, I have got a little bit of a sore throat. and I did pick up a little bit of a cough this week, and I was responsible. I went and got tested just in case, and I am negative. It's just a little bit of a sore throat, mainly from the hot weather and all the work and everything like that. But yeah, just be responsible. If you do feel like you've got some symptoms, get a test. Look after yourself. That's the best recommendation. Take your hand sanitizer around. Put your mask on if you can't keep the distance. You will need, you know, your mask in taxis and buses and things like that. But other than that, you can really enjoy your time. You can sunbathe on the beach without masks. Sunbathe by the pool. A lot of it is getting very much back to normal now. You'll just need your masks for, you know, entering restaurants and things like that. So do bring plenty with you as well, plenty of spares, because they do get wet and dirty and things. Now, in terms of returning home for the UK, to return back, if you're fully vaccinated, you don't have to quarantine, but you will need an antigen test to fly home with. The government did recommend a PCR, but you can do either. It's not mandatory to do a PCR. You can just do an antigen. They are €36 over here. Not expensive, but as I've said, book it in advance. So everyone will need one of those to fly home with to get on the plane this end. You will also need to fill in your UK Traveller Locator form. Again, I'll leave the link in the description. These forms are free to fill in. They're the government website form. You just fill in, you know, what flight you're on. Are you moving on to another country afterwards? What your address is, etc, etc. If you're exempt, everything like that. Again, download it to your phone, have it on your email. If you can print it off over here, you can do, but if you can't, don't worry, just have it on your email address. Have your negative antigen test as well. Go through the airport, they'll get you on the plane, and you'll fly back as normal. One other thing you will need to have is your day 2 PCR test booked for when you get back. You will need to book that in advance. You can book it while you're here. You don't have to book it while you're in the UK or anything. You can book it while you're here if you want to online. Again, there's various companies doing it. Various different prices. I think they range at around £45 with Randox. Make sure you've got that day 2 PCR test booked. You will need the reference number for that day 2 PCR test to add to your UK Traveller Locator form. If you don't have that reference number, it won't let you complete the form, and you won't have it for when you travel back. So you do need to have that day 2 test booked and paid for, and the reference number they send you needs to go on that UK Traveller form. When you get back to the UK, there are random checks. Sometimes they're checking if you've got that the second day test booked, but it is all connected with your UK Traveller form, so they do have records of it anyway. So don't think you can't book it. You will need to get it booked in. You will need to do it. It's all going to be on that form when you land back in the UK. And then obviously on the day 2, you'll receive it in the post. You just have to do the swab, send it off. You don't have to quarantine on your first day or second day or anything. Just wait for those results to come back, and then obviously hopefully they'll be negative. And that is mostly it. It sounds very complicated. I don't think it's too bad at all. There's a couple of tests involved. Obviously, if you're not fully vaccinated, you would potentially have to quarantine when you get back to the UK. But hopefully most of you are getting the vaccine and getting sorted. In other bits of news as well, Germany has lowered Tenerife right down to the lowest level of risk for their travellers, so we should see more Germans coming over. It does tie in with us staying on the amber list. A lot of other countries now are viewing Tenerife as pretty safe, pretty stable. Our figures are very stable. We are on that downward trend, which is all fantastic news. I hope that all does help a lot of you. Now, the other final question that I get asked almost every day, what happens if you test positive? I have got a little bit of an article here that I will leave the link for in the description as well for this. But basically, if you were to come down with symptoms, you should obviously start to self-isolate in your hotel room or your accommodation and get a test or seek a test. If you do test positive, you do have to quarantine yourself in your hotel or accommodation. In some cases, the Spanish authorities might ask you to move somewhere, but most of the time, if it does happen, it's a big if, I don't know anyone who has, you do stay in your accommodation. You would obviously maybe have to stay a bit longer, Now, in most Spanish regions, you do have the Spanish AXA insurance, including the Canaries. So they will cover you to an extent for that. If you do test positive, they will cover, you know, some of the cost of your accommodation and your flight back to the UK, things like that. But it does say here that they do recommend taking out your own cover as well, just to be sure. So if everything's not covered, you've got your own private insurance that you can claim from as well. Most of the questions I had were, you know, would they send me off to some hotel miles away and things. It does sound like to me that you would stay in the accommodation that you're in, but you wouldn't be able to leave your room. So I hope that does help some of you as well. There is the Spanish AXA insurance, which does mostly cover you, but do try and seek your own private insurance as well, just to be sure. But everyone here is having a great time. Everyone's having fun. What else is not to be happy about? I'm absolutely made up today. I think we're going to be very busy for September, October, for sure. Look at the weather as well. Excursions going on. Fantastic. So please do hit the subscribe button. Follow me on Facebook, Instagram. All those links are in the description. There goes the throat again. They're all in the description. Hit the thumbs up. Drop your comments. Are you now booking? Have you now booked since this announcement? Let me know. It's going to be interesting to see. For my cars, I'm almost fully booked for September already, which is unheard of. So do start making your reservations and plans early. Thank you very much for watching. Stride on, and I'll probably see you next week for maybe another little update. Hopefully all this good news still keeps coming in. Bye guys.